Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Artists of Color. I am your host, Elaine Hall-Corbin. And today, my guests are Marjorie Hicks from Roxbury Action Program and Melissa Mills, who is one of the board members for Roxbury Action Program. And today, we're going to talk about the history and what is going on, the background of Roxbury Action Program, how it got started, what it's done for the community, and how it's continuing its legacy. Good afternoon, Marjorie, and good afternoon, Melissa.
Good afternoon, Elaine.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Okay, could be. What's glad I'm not out there in that weather.
That's true. This weather is not good. I am not happy about this weather at all. Well, today I'd would like to get a little bit of background as to how both of you got started with Roxbury Action Program. Margie, I'd like to begin with you. How did you get started?
Ooh, my goodness, that's going back many years. I lived, my house was on Marcella Street and I was across well, this is not really how I had heard about it, but how I started working there. And Lloyd King lived across the street. And at least once or twice a month, I'd say, Lloyd, I need a job. And so I'm a nurse and I was working at that, but I wanted to stop. And so finally, after about 8 months of my aggravating him, he told me about a job that was there. And I went in and I interviewed, but that woman had died and I could see why, because she had too much to do. So then I said, no, I can't do the job. But then about maybe 6 months later, he called me in to work with seniors. And I stayed with that one. So that was how I started.
Ah, so you've done a lot of things. Actually, you've worn many hats at Roxbury Action Program.
Well, yeah, because I went in to work with seniors and they had a director and then she left. So I became the director. And then we had another. So there were many programs within that trying to hook seniors up with other people who had housing. There was a senior advocates who went all through Highland Park, found out who the seniors were, what their needs were, and then they brought them back to the agency, and then we tried to fill them. And then from that, they did the gardens and congregate housing. They looked into that, and they, made a mock of what they wanted. Unfortunately, we only got the funding for them to plan it. We couldn't get any funding for them to do it.
Oh, wow.
But so it went from that, then it was housing, health programs, youth programs, a whole bunch
What
of
are
stuff.
some of the youth programs that you've done?
Say that again.
What are some of the youth programs that Roxbury Action Program has done?
Well, there were some that I really wasn't involved too much with, and one of those was there was Rent a Kid, and then there was also the Garvey Youth Center, and they trained youth, in housing repair and things like that. They also had Rapid, and that was an educational program. They had jobs for them, but the main thing was for them to finish high school. So there's a lot of these kids who had dropped out, and so they worked with them. As far as I was concerned, I had the little ones, and so we had an after-school program, and then we had the summer program, and then we also involved the police in it for one summer, and the police got the funding. And it's like they did too good a job, and so they never did any more. They never came back. They never went in for more funding. But it was very successful because they worked in the park. After our program closed, the police would come and with a cadet, and they had all kind of trips. They had all kind of supplies, and you could see the drug dealers come at the corner and peek around and see the police there. So they had to go somewhere else. Without ever, having to do anything, pull a gun, do anything, it cleared out the area. So not only it worked for the kids, but it worked for everyone. Even parents came out and said, well, now that I see what's going on, I'll let my kids come out here.
See, that's community coming together.
Yeah.
That's community coming together. Well, thank you for a little bit of that history. We're going to delve more into that as we go along in our interview. Melissa, How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're welcome. You, besides being a board member now, have you been a resident of some of the housing in rap housing? I know you have, but
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I think that was when my family first moved to the area, the Highland Park area. We
yes.
were in development right on Highland Street. So that was sort of my introduction to the community and the neighborhood. And I think growing up there, I think there was a very clear sense of, with whether it was block parties or, different things that were going on, there was a very strong sense of community amongst people who were not just homeowners. And so I think that is what I see as far as like somewhat of a change now. And what I think one of the things that draws me to Roxbury Action Program, other than, being involved in things like face painting for Roxbury Day, or whether it was, some office, light office,
a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Volunteering sometimes, but just being around people who were very active in the community, and with that understanding that, in order to, I've looked at and seen some of the programming that Ms. Hicks already mentioned, and so much of it is this is something that could be done again, whether it was Harlem Book Fair or whatever, this is something that we should keep going. So I think in that sense, being involved with RAP to me is more about just maintaining that activity, a positive activity in the community, where it's not just action to necessarily stop things from happening, or rallying against something that's negative, but really trying to promote some positive collaboration. So that's what I think draws me to Roxbury Action Program and wanting to participate on the board.
Very good, very good. We're going to talk about it. I know you're doing a tour. You're doing tours, or you're talking about doing them. I want to, regarding the Roxbury area, I'd like to talk to you more about that. Mm-hmm. So what I want to say is, I'm going to ask a question, and both of you or one of you can answer it. Is, how do you see Roxbury Action Program being, how do you see what Roxbury Action Program benefited the community now and in the past?
Well, I can talk
artistic wise
to the past, in that the three major developments that RAP rehabbed, were all vacant. Highland Avenue, Highland Street, and then the one that we just sold. And even the one where Melissa used to live, at least once or twice a year, we had to call Tourine Kennels to get the wild dogs out of it, because they lived in there. You could see them on the third floor looking out like they were tenants, and they just took over. So rather than having those buildings just standing vacant or being bought by someone who would then price the community out of it, one at a time, RAP rehab them. But their thought at the time was not just housing. There are other things that you need in your life. That was why they had the youth program. I had the teen landscape program. And then one project I would just talk about, and then Melissa could talk about now, is the community gardens. That was a collaboration that I always liked, because it was MIT architectural students, and they made mock-ups of what could be done with the garden, the senior garden. At the time, it was a senior garden. If you were under 60, you might get a garden, but if there were no seniors. But it's open now. But and then there's another park further down. So then the tenants from the building, who were BHA tenants, and BHA and RAP had developed that place. they came over and they made the decision on how the park was going to be done. RCC at the time had a landscape maintenance program. They were trained on those parks on how to set them up. So what you see in the garden, beside the flowering part that Mr. Pomari did, was from those students. And so they maintained it through the summer. And like a lot of things, RCC didn't continue the maintenance program.
Maintenance.
You know, that was the main thing that would have kept it going, and maybe we could go on to other spots. But the fact that it was a collaboration and that the tenants were brought over to make the decision, you know, because normally would not normally be a thing that you would do to say, okay, you all come out here and decide on what you want in your neighborhood. Usually people have to fight for that, but that was the way it was done. And so the garden is still there. The park is now a dog park, but
I was going to ask if the garden was still there.
oh yeah, the garden is right outside the office.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot that's the
Down at
garden.
the bottom of the hill, that's where well, almost at the bottom.
Oh, is that
That's
the
where
dog park?
It's a dog park now.
Oh, please.
Unfortunately.
You're not kidding,
Well,
unfortunately.
Give it alone. I guess the dog's gonna go somewhere.
And what are your thoughts, Melissa?
I was just thinking, the dog park, didn't they try to put a sand lot there before?
Yeah, I think they did.
There was a sand lot and there was
And people would take their dogs there.
yeah, I know.
I think it always was a dog park. It just never officially was a dog park. And so
Well,
therefore,
not in the beginning. In the very beginning, in the year that I had this, what's it called? I forget what the program was with teens who clean that and who maintain it. There wasn't that much dog coming in because they were there every day,
right.
working on it. And but after that, and as more doggy people moved in,
Thank you.
you know, because you know, Page Academy used to bring their kids over there and let them play.
Yes,
They couldn't do it anymore.
I remember
really.
that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I just remember as a younger person, I just remember that part of the park just being like, no, don't bother going over to that side. You know, we played on the other side. But again, I love the point that Marjorie is making just about the collaborations that were involved to get certain projects done. I think that is just so key to having things that can be sustainable. And I just think that that's important, like, you know, creating partnerships and, you know, because it's very hard to be committed to something. Everybody leads very busy lives. So it's, you know, I think that is difficult in some degrees, but I think when you have the pieces for collaboration or the opportunity for collaboration, it makes it so much better for the community as a whole. So I like that.
Yeah, but even in that case, you know, RAP could have hired some teams and done it, but it was much better, and it was the breadth of the project was broader because of the collaboration. We also brought in a part of the city whose name I forget now, but they were very instrumental in teaching them how to maintain trees, and even to when we had the program with the kids, we took them to Mount Auburn Cemetery because of the history of it. And the plants that have been brought out from all over the world are over there. So it's really like a showcase.
Really?
More than a cemetery. Yeah, well, showcase if you're an arborist. But since they were working with plants, that was a good place to take them.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Nope, I didn't either till we had a project.
I want to talk about a program that we did. Actually, it was a little history. I want to talk about Roxbury Day. Yep. I worked with you and Melissa was there, but we've all worked. I remember starting to work with you on Roxbury Day a number of years ago. Who created Roxbury Day? I mean, I know what Roxbury Day is. Originally, it was called Roxbury Day, then it was called Roxbury Founders Day, but originally it was Roxbury Day.
It was started in 1988. And at the time, it was called Roxbury Pride. So you can see why that name had to go. And so,
yes, I can.
so it was like Roxbury Pride dash live it, like have pride in Roxbury.
Yes, in Roxbury.
Okay, they
I
developed
got a shirt.
Roxbury Cultural and Historical Festival or
Yes.
Roxbury Day.
Yes.
And there was a rather large committee that worked on it, and then it came on down to mostly rap and the lady.
Yes, it did.
Yeah. But it was an all-day celebration. We tried to have people from different agencies, vendors, any kind of musicians, artists, dancers. Let's see, what do you call it? Martial arts, you name it. We tried to have them there. And so, like, you've heard of the Makonda group. But when they first started, it was Roxbury, oh goodness, Roxbury Jazz Aesthetic. And they started out there at Roxbury.
Yes.
So, that was Roxbury Day.
Roxbury Day, I'm trying to remember the last time we did one. It's been a minute.
2019.
Okay, that's right. 2019.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But we couldn't do one last year.
Oh, no, we could not. I don't think we could do anything last year.
No, I called.
She called and they said, no. Oh, wow. I want to go back, Marge. You were talking about the Makonda project.
All right.
When did the Makonda project start?
Well,
as far as Roxbury Action Program was.
It started, I don't know exactly the year, but the Roxbury Jazz Aesthetic had a lot of the members that became the Makonda Project.
Yes.
And John Kordaleski, who does all the most of the arranging, went to school in Amherst, where Makonda was teaching. And then he contacted my brother, who was running a program at the conservatory. And they started out of there. He got them a practice spot, and they were able to, and so they were always there. And for a while, it might have been the conservatory's, Makonda's group, some kind of name like that, with a conservatory in it, but they didn't want that. They wanted to be independent of the conservatory.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe about 20 years ago, it seems that they really started.
About that.
Yeah, about that time. And they've gotten better and better and better. Each year, you can see the progression. Much. When I first heard them, I was like, but then now I really, want to go to the concerts.
Oh yeah, me too. I didn't like missing them, when we couldn't. Okay, yeah, I did wanted to know. I want to talk more about them, but we are going to go for a short break. And we will be back. So everyone, this is Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host for Artists of Color. We will be back with my guests, Marjorie Hicks and Melissa Mills, and we're going to talk more about Roxbury Action Program, better known as RAP.
Myth. If you get COVID-19, you'll recover after a few days. That myth is false. We're only just beginning to understand the effects of COVID-19 on the human body, as we're starting to see more and more people identifying as long haulers who are having symptoms for weeks, if not months after their initial infection. Continue to wear a mask, socially distance, and wash your hands. Together, we can keep COVID out of school.
For ways to keep your community safe, go to backtoschooltogether.com.
I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host, and today my guests are Marjorie Hicks and Melissa Mills. Melissa is one of the board members of Roxbury Action Program, and Marjorie has been a long-time worker, coordinator. She's worn many hats from Roxbury Action Program. Ladies, thanks for coming back, and I'm glad you're here with me. And I'm gratefully having you with me, and we're having a great conversation. I like it. I like it. I like it. We were talking about the Makanda project and art and culture. Roxbury Action Program did something that I had only heard about on the internet, and that was the Harlem Book Fair. I'd never heard about it before. And then one day, Marjorie, you and I were in the office together, and we were talking about possibly doing a Roxbury Harlem Book Fair. And I remember when we did that. Tell me how it got started, or tell my audience how we got started.
There is a person named Tony Rose who is from Boston, but now lives in Arizona. And he is related to Lloyd King and his wife. And he got a franchise from the Harlem Book Fair to do book fairs in other cities. And so the first thing he thought about was his hometown, which was Roxbury. So we signed a contract to do it. And that was how it got started, through him. He gave us a bit of help in the beginning. But it was mainly, really, you got a little bit of support as being a franchise of the Harlem Book Fair, but it was mostly independent. The only real thing was you couldn't have it in July when they have their book fair. Other than that, it's like, do whatever. But he was able to bring in some name authors the first year. The first year actually was the greatest.
It was beautiful, even if it was 900 degrees.
Day of the year.
Yeah.
And we were outside cooking, but other than that,
we were inside cooking too.
Well, that's right, because we had RCC and the air conditioning went off. And so we had workshops in there. And of course, because it was filmed, the hot lights were on and people were dying. I mean, but we got through it. We got through it.
Yes.
But it was very hot.
It sure was. If I'm not mistaken, was the Makanda Jazz Project, they performed that day too, didn't they?
Not the first one. They were there.
Not the first one?
No, maybe about the third or the fourth they performed.
Okay. How long did it go on, the book fair in Roxbury?
Book fair went on until, I think, 2014.
I think so too. Yeah.
We had a fundraiser luncheon the next year, and we featured three local authors. And parts of the Makanda group played. But after that, that was the last thing with the book fair.
Yes. Well, Melissa, no, actually, Marjorie, that was really, that I love that. I miss that. I know we did it for a while and I miss it. And I would love to have it done again. Are you planning to do something similar to that in the future? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. No.
It doesn't mean absolutely, positively never.
Okay, I like that.
Right now, it's not in the works.
Okay. I want to go to Melissa, because Melissa, earlier I asked you about a touring project that you're working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I should have used today's opportunity to just continue to take notes, because the touring project, which I think we spoke about when we did a BNN piece a while back regarding the Back to Life tours and, through the eyes of the artist.
Yes.
For the for the 2019 Roxbury Day. I think a part of that tour, as coming onto the board and figuring out what is the direction of rap going in, is there a tour that can be commissioned that helps to tell part of the Roxbury Action Program story within Highland Park, and how can we, pull together some of these elements to tell that story in a creative way. I wouldn't mind bringing Donna Summer back. She could be part of the tour. We could talk about, some of the ideas, but I think it's a pretty broad vision for, just how to tell the story, keep the history, the more current history, starting from 1968, and bringing it forward. Because I think that, even when Marjorie talked about, how the gardens got started over at Cooper and those collaborations, people don't know that. And I think that is, I think having a tour that again highlights some of the spaces and the places that we use, the art that's in the community and the neighborhood, and then some of the players, I think that would be a great way to, highlight the community and the neighborhood. And I think it's a great way to tell Rap's story too. So,
you just thought it made me think about when you're talking about the tours, the reason to go into the South End, to just give a smattering of what prices are there and who used to live there. Because it was because of that Rap started, because of the gentrification and coming up from downtown. Highland Park was the next area.
Yes.
So this was to try to save the area for somebody that lived there.
Okay. What do you think? I won't add. My interesting question was: we know that gentrification has priced out a lot of folks in the Roxbury area. Even in the Highland Park, Fort Hill area, not very many people of color still live in that area, which is what I mean. Do you find it hard to keep the culture alive? Either one of you can answer that. When I say the culture, I mean the culture of the community of culture that had been there for so long.
Well, when Melissa talked about the thing, I had forgotten about the things we used to do in the park. We were always we had drumming in the park, and that brought out, African Americans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and in the Dominicans kept saying, we need some African drums in here. They got a different beat, but it was fun. So those kind of things, someone has to be doing that, because people don't all just do it.
Right.
We had drumming in the park, we had roller skating, we had barbecues.
Oh, wow.
Well, they don't have the horse anymore. Yeah, we had horseback riding around the park, but
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but the city, what's his name? Menino got rid of the horses. So that took care of that.
Yeah, sure did.
But I'm just thinking that those kind of things that involve the community,
yes,
and sort of said to the newcomers, this is what we do here. We don't have to do it your way.
Right.
But that's not going on.
Not anymore.
No. So that kind of thing would be helpful.
What is the future of Roxbury Action Program? What is the legacy that's going to be left? What is Roxbury Action Program moving forward with?
Well, I will start and Melissa can finish it. But the legacy is the housing. Like I said, they were all vacant.
Right.
Marcus Garvey Gardens was a RAP project.
Yeah. Forgot about them almost.
The work in Elliott Square to change that was started by RAP. So those things, they could be highlighted in her tour, because who knows, that legacy is there. So however RAP change decides to go, those things are still there unless they unfortunately collapse. But
please, that may not happen.
As for the future, well, I'll just say this: RAP is no longer in the housing business. We just sold our last development, which was the first development. It was just sold.
Oh,
So now it's a matter of what direction is RAP going to go in?
going to go
Is it
in.
going to be a trust that, a short-term trust that gives money to agencies that they feel like are doing the kind of things that they did so they can expand and do more? Is it going to be a trust and a long-term thing, or is it going to continue as a working agency? And then
Right.
what will be the things that they focus on? So, you know, like I was thinking, whether they close down in a year or stay up, that Melissa's tour could go on no matter what.
Yes.
And there are a few other things like economic development that one of the board members had talked about, those and teaching people in the neighborhood what to do and how to get back into, same thing that RAP did in the beginning, into getting into housing or whatever it is to make yourself solvent. That those things could still go on, but where it's gonna go is up in the air right now.
What do you see going on with Roxbury Action Program in the form of arts, the arts itself? Do they, not a plan, but do they have any moving forward ideas, or what have they been doing as far as the arts are concerned, besides Maconda?
Well, we brought the artists in that, you know, what's it? That little, the car that they go around.
Oh, Sparks for Art.
Spark. I kept thinking Snap, but Spark the art.
Sparks
had
the Art
those-
Mobile.
Yeah, I usually get those if we can, as often as we can, to when we do the concerts outside.
Right.
Um,
People like those.
People do, even when Melissa has done the artwork, I mean, people just came. They're not artists, but they just, with the music, and they just sit down and start doing it. And it's really a good artistic release. You know, we got in a group that had like 40 dancers and things like that. So that will probably continue. I would think Melissa can talk to that as far as her tours, because that's going to focus on some of the artists.
Well, I mean, I will just say, I think part of it is, you know, events and how we, you know, celebrate the legacy and the history. I think that's a piece of it. And when it comes to bringing in artists, you know, if there is a moving forward with like regular programming, I think that there is a place and a piece for the artists to put their contributions. Like I would love, is it Fern Cunningham that's done a number of sculptures here? And I mean, I would love there to be, you know, a program developed around what, you know, the work that she's done, and
I would
talking about her art, and just talking about being a sculptor, and how can you bring young people into that and sort of carry it forward. That's, I mean, and it doesn't have to be. I think one of the things we talked about in terms of just the tour is, you know, can it be a standalone project or event, or could it be a continuous project? So those are some of the things I think, getting people who already operate in that space to put their heads together to create or develop an RFP that would be comprehensive enough to get people excited about being a part of a project like that. I think that would be, in terms of the moving forward piece, I think it would be about sort of like calling people forward to see, you know, how many people can we get to contribute or collaborate on a project like this, whether it was around, you know, tours as a programming or an event, you know, a standalone event. But again, just creating some, you know, positive memories, you know, in the spaces that we live. I think that's important.
It is. Okay, I'm very much in agreement with that. So moving forward, I just thought of this, moving forward with RAP, and you were talking about the different programs and things that what RAP intends to do. I thought of the program that we did, and I don't know if they're still doing it, Margie, is the COVID-19 fund that RAP started.
Well, it's still going, yes.
Right, that's what I said, started.
Yeah, it's still going for people who are having difficulty because of COVID.
Right.
So, everybody doesn't need to shout at once at their problems, but
True.
it still exists.
How does one, okay, in order to find out about that program, do you have to live right in the Fort Hill Highland area, Roxbury area?
It is set up for Highland Park, but with the lines are kind of fuzzy sometimes.
Okay.
Depends on how bad the need is and how far away they are.
Okay, I hear you. I want to say I want to go back to the Harlem Book Fair and the people that have been involved, and the fact that I'm passionate about the book fair, as you can see. Would you? I know. Is there a possibility that Roxbury Action Program could possibly do something similar to that in the future? Does not have to be as big, but
well, everything's possible. There's all kind of possibilities. I would think that if you're going to do it, it would be bigger.
Okay.
It may not be able to be bigger in let's say Reggie Lewis, but there are perks about Reggie Lewis that make it worthwhile doing in there.
Yes.
So at least as big, if not bigger than it was when it was inside Reggie Lewis. I would definitely want it to be bigger.
Okay. Oh, all right. And your thoughts behind that, Melissa?
No, I was just saying, I just remember the trip we took to Harlem.
Oh yeah, I was
I was
thinking about that too.
If you can't do it, then go to somebody else's party. That's okay too. I thought that was a great bus trip. I
loved it. I went twice or 3 times. The last time I went was in 2014. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely remember all those late people and everything else at 6 o'clock in the morning. But
talk about the bus trips. Yes.
Huh?
Let's talk about that. The bus trips.
Oh dear. Well, the book fair's already gone, I think. Well, it's too late for this year, so
yes,
we can't do it this year because you need time to promote it. And the book fair is this month. So
yeah. Oh, that's right. It is July.
Matter of fact, I think a lot of it is on Zoom though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that out because I would like, if I could get in, I'd like to see. Wow.
Yeah.
But I remember the bus trips. I remember the Harlem.
They were interesting. Mm-hmm.
Very, very much. Very much. Oh my goodness. There were other bus trips that RAP did besides the Harlem Book Fair. What were some of the others that you guys?
Well, we did a lot of trips for kids. Well, they were for families. It wasn't just for kids.
Families.
To the museum. We went to, trying to think. Oh, Rhode Island. To a zoo in Rhode Island. We did a lot of the local stuff.
Yeah.
Bus trips. Yeah.
Very good. We're going to take a break.
Worried your friend's struggling but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could write them a text or knit them a sweater. If you can't be together, you could write them a letter. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking. You could chat on the game, kick off your flip-flops. You could ask on your couch while you binge watch. However you do it, you gotta ask a friend. And if they don't share, you can ask again. Whatever gets you talking. Whatever gets you talking.
There are a lot of ways to reach out to a friend about their mental health. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Artists of Color. I am Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. And today my guests are Marjorie Hicks and Melissa Mills, both from Roxbury Action Program. And we've been having an interesting chat. I really liked our chat. And you know, we're coming down to almost to the end of the show. And I wanted to see what you two ladies plan for your future as far as centered around rap, around Roxbury Action Program. What is your future? I know, Margie, you'll have to tell us about you.
I do.
Yeah, what is your, what is your plan? Are you
My
intending
plan is to hang around until the board has made the decision, make sure all the financial stuff is done and done on time, and to pass the torch over the hills and on to younger people. There's a part of me that also doesn't necessarily want to do a book fair, but to do something with local authors, more like the luncheons we used to have. And I wouldn't mind doing that. And I forgot, I'm still doing the history project. But those two things, once they're finished, sayonara.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I understand. It's been a long time with you.
Yes, it has.
It's been a long time,
Mhm.
It's like you were just there. You were part of the brick and mortar.
Well, pretty much. If we hadn't moved out of that building, I probably would be.
You would have been the brick and mortar. It's very funny because every time I drive by there, I think of coming down those stairs and going into the basement, going into the office. It's like, okay, we're here again.
Well, I started out on the other building, the old building. But
Yeah, what was the old building?
Huh?
That's what I wanted to talk about.
What?
When that Roxbury Action Program started, they were over in that very big building.
No. It actually started on Blue Hill Avenue in the American Friends Service Committee. And from that's where people were organizing. George Morrison, Lloyd King, John Marshall, Mel. And so that's when they decided where to go, where they wanted to go, and what they wanted to do. And they got a grant from the American Friends Service Committee, and they moved to Lambert Avenue.
Okay.
So, because there were 3 houses that a group called Afram Associates had. That was
Who?
Chuck Turner, Afram Associates.
Okay.
It was Chuck Turner, a man named Mr. Battle, and the third person, I don't know. But they gave those buildings to RAP to start out with. So there were 3 separate 3-family buildings, and RAP's office was in one of them. And 10 Linwood was vacant then. And so they, after a while, they were able to buy it and rehab it enough to have, to work in there.
Okay.
So that was how it started.
Okay. So that building that's at 10 Linwood,
Mm-hmm.
that was part of RAP.
Yeah, that was
the second place.
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, I love that building. Yeah.
It was nice. My office was on the top in the cupola, so that was nice.
Wow. Back in the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I can go upstairs.
I hear you. Melissa. Yes. I'm going to see, I have this thing about art and culture. And since you are part of the tour that you're doing, artists, I want to know how do you plan to put artists within the tours? How do you plan to make that a piece of the tours that you're going to be doing?
Well, I mean, for the tour itself, part of the storytelling is, art is part of the storytelling of these historical tours, because they are to be told through the eyes of the characters that were here before. So, having people who can act out these parts and then tell the story in such a way that it's creative and entertaining. I mean, it's part of the edutainment space. So that is going to be one of the goals and one of the challenges. But there are people who are doing things, like I said, already in this space, maybe not exactly this, but have that background in theater, or have that background of edutainment. And so, I mean, it's really tapping into that and making it be something that people in that sphere can take it. And then we've discussed how can we add a little bit more of the theatrics into the costuming. And I think we talked about that before, making the tours in the Highland Park area something that is really a match for people who want to see the neighborhood and people who want to enjoy, different, where they live, and get a piece of the history too. So
the artistic part and the theatrical part, will that be centering more around the arts and artistic space of color?
I mean, we can definitely, with the tour, you can highlight the art that is in those spaces. I mean, that's one of the ways to bring the art in, is, the public art that's already existing, or even if it's, a famous artist live here, and then you can have a talk, at X place to, highlight their art. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but again, having it be something that's sustainable, I think is, part of the conversation of developing the tour to make it, really robust.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you, when you became a board member of RAP, was that part of your thought processes of becoming a board member?
I had this, I see it as a pet project, it's like a pet project in the back of my head. And, being a board member doesn't necessarily, I mean, I think it's something that I can bring to the table. I mean, I definitely will present it, I would want to give it a full presentation to the board. But again, how it's laid out is going to be, again, a collaborative decision. And I think that for me, wanting to collaborate with other people on this project, that can be something that, sustains itself. So being a board member was really just my community volunteering spirit. Like, let me do I can do my
volunteering spirit.
Yes. So, I think, I mean, I love being able to do something local. I mean, I think that's important.
Yeah, it is. It is important. Well, ladies, I'm just trying to figure out, where the conversation will continue at, how it will blossom, I should say. And I feel like, having been around RAP so long, it's been almost 20 years for me. I've been hanging out with Marjorie anyway. I'm attached to her hip.
Mhm.
She just doesn't know it. She just doesn't know it yet. Oh my goodness. Do you miss RAP, Marjorie?
Miss what?
Will you miss RAP when there's no longer nothing?
Oh, how do I know? I haven't gotten there yet. I've tried. I've retired 3 times. So
she has, I got pictures of that. She retired 3 times.
So, I mean, I'll find out when I know. I'll know when I find out, however that goes.
However that may go.
Yeah.
Oh,
But as far as, how it's going to go, the continuing conversation, it's continuing. So
yes. That's why I said
you can't
continuing.
tell you until you've gotten somewhere. There are a lot of balls in the air that people have ideas about. And then even when it's decided on what path RAP will take is then how to bring those balls into a program.
Okay.
I've talked to different people who have zillion ideas, but then how do we get that into a marketable program?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we wouldn't want to use all of RAP's money because then you run out. So
and you don't want to do that because you want to be able to
have, so it's a lot. I mean, it's not too much, but there is some work that has to be done, to continue on. Part of the legacy is already there.
Yes, it is.
And even with the individual homeowners who were helped to buy a home.
Yes.
Because even when I bought my house, I happened to run into George Morrison at Connolly's. And he said to me, "Do you have a lawyer?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you need to have a lawyer if you're buying a house." I said, "Oh, really? Oh, okay."
I didn't know that.
I didn't think about it.
See?
But much beyond that, they helped people to get people, lease housing. Because at that time, you could get lease, if you had a tenant, they would give you money to repair your house, to bring it up to snuff. So that helped a lot of homeowners stay in their homes. A lot of the older homeowners who would have been priced out. Yeah. So it's always been home ownership has always been a big thing with RAP. But
which has always been a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I am so happy for that. And that's a piece that is there. And that's something I would like to talk about. Well, don't know if RAP's going to continue in that form.
Well, it won't continue in that form. Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Out of the housing business. I know.
I know we're out of the housing business as far as we're out of the housing business totally. Okay. Well, ladies, I want to say it's been a back and forth conversation. And I'm really glad we had the back and forth conversation. It's been wonderful. And I just want to ask you ladies, what are your future endeavors? I'm going to start with Melissa this time.
Yay.
What are your future endeavors? What do you intend to move forward with besides the tours?
Well, I am a new realtor. And so I think, as you touched on, some of the issues around displacement and gentrification.
Yes.
One of my big things, because I do work for like a big box firm, is having that conversation around displacement of individuals and what is a realtor's responsibility in that. Okay. And just being very conscious about how I operate individually, because the industry as a whole has its own agenda, but I think that it is upon each individual to, if they're working in a specific or particular space or place, to do so in a way that has some integrity. So I think that I am still holding conversations around gentrification with people within the industry, because it's not something that they really talk about.
No, they don't.
It's not something that we talk about as an industry, but it's an important piece and factor. So I just keep that at the forefront as my, in my first 3 years, as something that is just a part of how I will operate, as a business. So
thank you.
I think that, again, being associated with RAP is a good way to just have some knowledge.
Yep. Thank you. I love it. I like what you're doing. Margie.
Yes.
Where are you going What are your plans for? You know, what are you?
Sorry.
You got 30 seconds, lady. Okay.
I'm going. Well, I haven't written in a long time. It's really been a long dry period. So I would probably try to get a workshop here that I would work on. Because if I run a workshop, that encourages me to write. So
Okay.
I would probably do that. And I don't know, I might, start coming back up to Boston to do one once a month. But that's about it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, ladies, it's been great. It's been wonderful. Thank you. And I want to thank my audience. I'm Elaine Hall-Corbin, your host. And thank you for being with us in Artists of Color. See you soon.